The first thing my boss said after firing me was, "Don't take it personally. This is about leadership succession." Then his son smirked. Actually smirked. I remember sitting there in that cold glass conference room staring at both of them while downtown Chicago glowed behind the windows like the city itself was pretending not to notice what just happened. 12 years. 12 years building that company. And somehow I got replaced by a guy who thought Excel spreadsheets were kind of aggressive. Yeah. That didn't sit right. My name's Nolan Pierce. I'm 41 years old now, and 3 years ago I walked out of Barrington Commercial Group carrying my office belongings inside a grocery store bag because apparently even the cardboard boxes had already been reserved for somebody more important. Specifically, my boss's son. His name was Tyler Barrington. Tyler wore expensive watches the way insecure people wear personality traits. Every meeting with him felt like listening to a podcast hosted by somebody who never struggled long enough to understand consequences. Meanwhile, his father, Gerald Barrington, ran the company like a private kingdom disguised as a corporation. Publicly he preached loyalty and corporate family values. Privately? Different story. I joined Barrington Commercial right after the 2008 collapse when the company was barely surviving. Nobody wanted those accounts back then. Half the clients were furious, vendors were leaving, and morale looked medically concerning. I stayed anyway. Long nights. Missed holidays. Airport dinners eaten alone while fixing regional contracts nobody else wanted touching. Slowly the company stabilized. Then grew. Then exploded financially once the commercial market recovered. Gerald loved taking credit publicly too. That part almost impressed me honestly. Guy could stand on stage accepting awards for systems I personally built while talking about visionary leadership, like PowerPoint presentations counted as sacrifice. Still, I tolerated it because I believed patience mattered. And honestly, for years it paid off. By 38 I practically ran operations already. Clients trusted me. Senior managers came directly to me during crises. Everybody assumed I'd become COO eventually. Everybody except Gerald. See, wealthy men with sons often mistake bloodlines for qualifications. Tyler officially joined the company 6 months before everything collapsed for me. First meeting, he arrived 40 minutes late carrying iced coffee and calling employees rockstars like a malfunctioning motivational speaker. Then he immediately suggested restructuring divisions he didn't understand yet. Classic. At first I tried helping him genuinely. That was my mistake. Because people like Tyler don't interpret patience as kindness. They interpret it as weakness. Over time he started presenting my ideas during executive meetings before I could speak. Gerald always nodded proudly afterward too. Smart instincts, son. Instincts. Interesting word considering Tyler once asked accounting whether profit margins were mostly automated. Meanwhile I kept swallowing frustration because corporate environments reward emotional restraint right until they weaponize it against you. Then came the Nashville expansion project. Huge opportunity. High stakes. Months of negotiations. I practically lived in hotels building that deal from scratch. Tyler attended 2 meetings total and somehow still ended up photographed beside Gerald during the final contract signing. That's when I knew this situation was gonna get messy. 3 weeks later Gerald asked me into the conference room. Tyler already sat there smiling slightly. Never trust smiling people during surprise meetings. Gerald folded his hands calmly. Nolan, the company's entering a new phase. Corporate language always sounds funniest right before betrayal. He continued. We need leadership aligned with long-term family continuity. There it was. Family continuity. Translation, my son needs your chair. I stayed quiet. Gerald slid severance paperwork across the table. Generous package too. That almost made it worse somehow. Like they wanted betrayal to feel professional enough that I couldn't complain honestly afterward. Tyler finally spoke. "You've done great work here." "Done great work." Past tense already. I just nodded slowly. "Sure." Then I grabbed the papers and left before anger made me say something useless. Funny thing about humiliation. It doesn't always hit immediately. Sometimes it arrives later doing ordinary things. Driving home. Brushing your teeth. Standing inside grocery stores wondering how people who trusted you professionally suddenly erased you so easily. My wife Camille found me sitting in the garage that night staring at nothing. She didn't ask whether I was okay. Smart woman. Instead she handed me coffee and said, "So. What now?" That question saved me honestly. Not pity. Direction. For a while I consulted independently. Small contracts mostly. Risk assessments. Operational restructuring. Nothing glamorous. But during those projects I noticed something interesting. Mid-sized commercial firms kept struggling with logistical inefficiencies Barrington solved years earlier using systems I personally designed. Systems Gerald technically owned. Knowledge he didn't. Big difference. So I started building customized operational frameworks independently. Then software integration partnerships followed. Then regional contracts. Within 2 years, pure strategic solutions expanded faster than I expected honestly. Turns out companies value competence more consistently when family politics aren't involved. Camille helped too. Massively. She handled client relationships while I built infrastructure. Real partnership. Not whatever Gerald and Tyler pretended leadership looked like. Meanwhile Barrington Commercial started slipping quietly. Nothing dramatic initially. Just small fractures. Client complaints increased. Regional managers resigned. Tyler pushed flashy expansion projects without understanding operational stability underneath them. Guy thought confidence counted as strategy. Then came the debt-heavy Phoenix acquisition. Everybody in the industry knew it looked dangerous. Tyler announced it anyway during some ridiculous rooftop investor party featuring violinists for absolutely no reason. 3 months later the acquisition started bleeding cash. Fast. That's when investment groups began circling Barrington Commercial looking for buyout opportunities. One private equity firm approached me first because apparently irony enjoys participation. At first I laughed it off. Then I reviewed the numbers. And realized something. Barrington still had valuable infrastructure. Good people too. People I'd spent years building alongside before politics poisoned leadership. So I made an offer. Quietly. Strategically. Gerald rejected it immediately, of course. Pride makes expensive decisions. But 6 months later, after debt pressure worsened and investors panicked, negotiations reopened. Different tone that time. Funny how financial stress improves listening skills. The final acquisition meeting happened in the exact same conference room where I got fired. Same windows. Same polished table. Even the same burnt coffee smell somehow. Gerald looked older immediately. Tyler looked angry in that helpless way privileged people do once consequences stop negotiating with them. Nobody smirked this time. My legal team finalized paperwork quietly while silence stretched across the room. Eventually Gerald cleared his throat. I never expected this outcome. I looked at him for a second. Honestly? I believed him. Because men like Gerald assume power naturally transfers downward through family lines forever. They never imagine competence rebuilding itself elsewhere first. Tyler finally spoke. You planned this? Interesting question. Like success only counts if it secretly revolves around them somehow. I shook my head calmly. No. You planned it the day you confused inheritance with ability. That landed hard. You could feel it. After the acquisition, I kept most employees. Needed them honestly. They were good people trapped beneath bad leadership decisions. Some even cried during transition meetings because they expected mass layoffs after everything collapsed. That part bothered me more than I expected. Fear lingers inside workplaces long after executives stop noticing it exists. As for Gerald, retired quietly. Tyler disappeared into private investment ventures, which usually means wealthy families hiding embarrassment behind vague job titles. I rarely think about either of them now honestly. Most mornings I arrive early before the office gets loud and walk past the conference room windows overlooking Chicago while employees settle into another normal workday. Sometimes I remember leaving that same building carrying my career inside a grocery bag. Funny thing is, Gerald thought he fired me from the company. What he actually did was finally remove me from the ceiling he built over my life.